Have you ever just stopped and looked around and felt like, well, like almost everything is for sale now? It's this quiet but really powerful shift, isn't it? We seem to have gone from simply having a market economy to becoming a market society. So today, we're going to dig into philosopher Michael Sandel's huge question: what are the moral limits of markets? So here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at just how wide-ranging this everything for sale society has become. Then we'll dive into something we all know: jumping the queue. From there, we'll get into Sandel's two big arguments against all this, one about fairness and one about corruption. And we'll wrap it all up by asking that massive question: where exactly should we draw the line? All right, first up, let's just try to get a handle on how far markets have really pushed their boundaries. The list of things you can put a price tag on today is, well, it's pretty mind-boggling. It's creeping into parts of our lives that used to be guided by totally different rules. Let's start with a number that's pretty jarring: $150,000. What does that get you? Well, it can get you the right to shoot an endangered black rhino in South Africa. The market-based logic here is that by selling these permits, you give ranchers a financial incentive to actually protect the species. It's a really stark example of using market solutions for conservation. And then, all the way on the other end of the scale, $2. That's what some schools in Dallas are willing to pay a second grader to read a book. The idea is to use a cash reward to encourage kids to read more. So you see, from endangered animals to a child's education, money incentives are becoming the go-to tool. And it's the sheer variety here that's so eye-opening, right? This isn't just about Porsches and Rolexes. We're talking about life, citizenship, healthcare, and even renting out space on our own bodies. This is what Sandel means by that huge shift. We're not just in a market economy anymore. We're becoming a market society where market thinking is seeping into, well, everything. Okay, so let's zoom in on one specific area where this market logic has totally changed the game for all of us: waiting in line. That simple, democratic idea of first come, first served is getting pushed aside for a new model. If you can pay, you go first. Come on, we've all been there, haven't we? Stuck in a long line, just wishing we could teleport to the front. That feeling is universal. But what used to be a little daydream is now a booming business. Paying to cut in line isn't some sneaky exception anymore. It's becoming the standard way of doing things. And I mean, this is everywhere now. You can buy an express pass at a theme park or a fast-track lane at airport security. For a pretty penny, something called concierge medicine lets you jump the queue at the doctor's office. And get this, even in Washington, D.C., lobbyists can literally pay people to stand in line for them to get a seat at a congressional hearing. And this really gets to the core ethical question. The line, the queue. It used to be one of society's great equalizers, right? The CEO and the mail carrier, they both had to wait their turn. So by turning the queue into something you can buy, are we accidentally creating a world where the wealthy just live in a totally separate, faster reality while the rest of us are stuck in the slow lane? This brings us right to Sandel's first big problem with a world where everything has a price tag: the issue of fairness and, you guessed it, inequality. So here's the crucial point he makes. Look, if being rich only meant you could buy yachts and fancy vacations, inequality would still exist, but it wouldn't be as painful. But when money can also buy better medical care, a safer neighborhood for your kids, and political influence, that's when inequality becomes so much more corrosive to a healthy society. And this quote from Sandel just hits the nail on the head. When every good thing is for sale, not having money really, really hurts. It starts to define not just what you can own, but what you can access, what you can do, and even who you can be. Let's go back to that line stander example, because it's not a hypothetical. This really happens. When a powerful lobbyist pays someone to hold their spot, they're not just buying a bit of convenience. No, they're buying access to our democracy, and in the process, they're squeezing out regular citizens who can't afford to play that game. Suddenly, fairness isn't just about money. It's about having an equal voice in our own society. But Sandel has another objection, and this one's a little deeper, a little more subtle than just fairness. He argues that putting a price on things can actually damage them. It can change their very nature for the worse. This is his corruption argument. This is such a powerful idea if you think about it. The argument is that markets aren't neutral. The simple act of buying and selling something can change what it means to us. It can push out other important values, things like civic duty, generosity, or moral commitment, and replace them all with a cold, hard financial calculation.
This real-life experiment in a Swiss village is the perfect example. So researchers asked villagers if they'd accept a nuclear waste site in their community, out of a sense of civic duty. A little over half, 51%, said yes. But then they asked again. Only this time they offered everyone cash payments. What happened? Support plummeted to just 25%. The money changed everything. It turned a question of civic responsibility into what felt like a bribe, and it just crowded out their sense of public spirit. Here's another great way to think about it: the difference between a fine and a fee. A fine, like the massive speeding tickets they give to rich people in Finland, it carries a moral judgment. It says, you did something wrong. A fee, on the other hand, is just a price. So for wealthy couples in China, the fine for having a second child just became a fee, the price you had to pay. It corrupts the whole point of the policy, turning a moral statement into a simple business transaction. And sometimes you see people actively fight against this market logic to protect something they care about. Bruce Springsteen could easily charge way, way more for his concert tickets, but he keeps them relatively low. Why? He wants to keep that bond with his fans, to make sure the concert feels like a shared celebration, not just a product for the highest bidder. The meaning of the event is worth more to him than the extra profit. So all of this, the lines, the fairness problem, the corruption problem, it all brings us to the fundamental question that's really at the heart of this whole discussion. Sandal is really pushing us to change the conversation we're having in public. Instead of just asking if a market solution is efficient, we have to start asking if it honors or degrades the thing it's being applied to. Does selling the naming rights to a city park enhance its civic purpose, or does it diminish it? That's the kind of deep moral debate, he says, we've been avoiding for too long. Because at the end of the day, living in a society where everything is for sale can really start to wear away at our shared life. When the wealthy can buy their way into exclusive skyboxes at the stadium, better schools, and gated communities, we lose those common spaces where people from all different backgrounds just bump into each other. We all end up retreating into our own little bubbles. And this leaves us with one final really provocative thought. Economics is great at telling us the price of everything, but it's not so good at telling us its value. Deciding which things money shouldn't be able to buy, well, that requires a real public conversation about what truly matters to us. Things like health, education, community, and justice. Ultimately, it's a debate about what kind of society we really truly want to build together.